If you grew up with games like Atari and Pac-Man, stay tuned for LiveWire because it's changed the world. There are dozens and dozens of video game developers in our very town. Right after this. With me in the studio is Nathan Althaus, who is not only an entrepreneur, he's a specialist, an IT specialist, he's also a video game developer, and he also is the president of a video game development organization in town. Welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me.
It's great. It's great. Well, I had never heard of it, and I found it fascinating. The more and more I learn about how this has turned out, the whole idea of game design and the concept is, and then how it moves people to try to develop it yourself. And you have programs that serve people who want to do that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we really try to build that support system around the community to kind of develop, the talents in the creative economy here.
It's really amazing. So tell me, you were walking down the street one day and you thought, well, I like doing this, and I think maybe we ought to find out if there are other people, and I'll start an organization to make this happen.
Actually, no, it really started because I wanted to get my son into video game development because he was, at 11 years old, he was a big video game developer or video game player, and he and I would talk about games that we wanted to make. And so I actually looked up on meetup.com, which is a web page for meeting in person, and found a small group that just, met to talk about video game development. And he didn't want to go, of course, so I ended up going by myself. And I ended up finding out that it was a great community and a lot of talented people. And I just started, going week after week or month after month, every event. And, I just kind of fell in love with the community and eventually got to the point where I'm kind of running the organization.
Wow. Well, tell me, it's amazing that people develop a video game and then they share it or they sell it. What?
Yeah, there's a lot of avenues you can do, and of course we want to encourage, the business path or actually producing the game. There's a lot of people who would love to do it for a living, so they don't have to work. This is what I want to do for my career.
Sure.
So we do encourage publication and actually getting to that point. But there are some people that really just do it for fun. They're just kind of hobbyists, and it's an expression for them. It's a creative outlet.
Developing a video game must be complex because there's so many variables. I mean, it seems to me, it would take a whole gang of people.
It does sometimes. I mean, when you talk about the large companies, they have gangs of like 80 to 100 people and stuff like that.
Yes. Sometimes
developing games, it can be complex. It can also be relatively simple too. Especially as the technologies to actually make the games are kind of improving. They have these no-code type development things where you don't have to type any code. You just kind of, move things around on the screen and kind of, plug in all your parameters and stuff like that. And when you get started, we try to put groups of people together and kind of, complementary skills. So you maybe have a programmer and an artist and all that kind of stuff, so that you have a better chance of, being able to do all the work that's required to make a video game without having to kind of, put it all on one set of shoulders, right?
I see it. It's amazing. So, so you're going to do some events for beginners at all? Do you do that?
We do educational events. We do just like industry like training events. If it's a particular thing like animation, 3D animation. So we'll bring in like an industry professional or someone who's got skills to do that, and then they'll just talk about what it is to do that.
So a lot of the games are animated because that's what it's all about, right?
Many are, yeah.
And so I watched a couple of them, and I've seen a couple of them, and they're some of them are amazingly too quick for me to follow. You wonder, and then what powers I had to change the game that I was watching. I was wondering how that worked.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about video games as a creative expression is just like there's so much you can do with it. You could literally build a world. I mean, like Minecraft, is a good example. There's you can tell a story. You can just have like kind of a visual input or like a game based off of sound, like like a Beat Saber, so that you're just kind of a rhythm type thing. I mean, you could do almost anything with a video game.
Really? So maybe we have some slides we could look at and maybe get an idea of how this service organization really kind of reaches into the psychology of games and helps people be more creative, actually. Okay,
Sure.
you can narrate.
So this is actually from our Capital Creative Showcase event, which is actually coming up in April 15th. These are some of the developers showing, their video game that they created at the event.
Mm-hmm.
And this one in particular is kind of Geek Freaks podcast actually helped us kind of with an interactive display. So there's another one coming up that has a big screen TV where they're actually playing some video games. Some of them actually produced by the developers in Sacramento, and some of them are just competition games that we were playing for a little esports tournament. And there's the big screen, and the Geek Freaks podcast are the guys behind them in the booth, and they kind of helped us. And they're actually going to be back again this year, so they're hosting a tournament. So we're going to do a couple of video game tournament. This picture is actually for Square Root Academy's Creative Corner, and we were really trying to create an interactive display for families so that young kids and families can kind of get their first experience with an interactive creative exhibit. And this is one of the games that actually has VR, so you'll see the VR headset actually on his head as he's playing.
So you have to wear a
yeah, so you're in a virtual experience, a virtual world, and this is another Capital Creative Showcase. That person right there is Zach Wynn. He's our vice president, and he actually is a developer as well.
Whoa.
He's got a game called Mocha Mania, which is kind of based off of like the old Donkey Kong series and stuff like that, the classic arcade games.
Wow.
It's a lot of fun, actually.
Very exciting. Okay, what do we got here?
This game is a very unique one. It's called Orbitron. And it's a mechanical game, electronic game, but it's got a light, and you have your phone that connects to it, and the light kind of moves around the sphere, and you got to kind of follow the lights, competing with other lights and stuff. And it's been a huge success. We actually had it at the 5,000 watts, which was a nighttime display for Square Root Academy. They do a kind of a creative arts display that's after dark, so you get the lights, and people loved it. And it's a great game. It's very innovative.
Obviously, it is. It's fabulous.
And this is Zach Wynn, our vice president, at the Capital Creative Showcase movie poster. We like to do the movie posters. This is at the venue that we had for last year. And there's our logo.
There's your logo. Capital Creative Showcase. And it really is about creativeness in terms of, it's got one focus, of course, which is the development of games. There's a variety in that, but it focuses on the computer and games. Amazing.
Yeah, so we started out really with video game, and that was our initial focus. I actually, when I kind of took over and formed the nonprofit, the 501c, we renamed the show, kind of reformatted it as Capital Creative Showcase. And part of the reason for that is because I really want to have it as a celebration of really any creative force in the capital region, right? So that's where the name came from. So anywhere in the greater Sacramento region, so whether it's artists or indie musicians or indie filmmakers, because the independent creative artist is pretty much the same across the board. You struggle for years to develop a creative work without actually getting any money for it, and you have a slim chance of actually being able to publish it and kind of make your world, make your money, and that's hard, that's difficult, and you usually work in a full-time job or 2 full-time jobs or whatever while you're doing this on the side, and so you need a lot of support. Otherwise, we lose all those creative talents in Sacramento region, and I don't
have a service organization give you that support.
Right?
It's just is a logical step, I think so. So, how is there a kind of a system whereby you analyze the qualities of the creative qualities, the nuance in a game that reaches? Because it seems to me like if you have a gang of game players, you will find one that has more creative ideas fit into it.
Well, so we try not to scrutinize the actual creative, forces of the artist too much. We provide basically, the support system so that they can kind of do what they want, because we want it to be very creative and, and see their expression to its fullest extent. So what we do for our mentoring and stuff is we'll offer guidance as far as like, marketing tips. How do you get people to know about your game? How do you actually, if you need to learn some new skills or something like that, where could you get training? Where do you seek funding if you want to get funding for a project? And, a lot of those different things that don't have so much to do with the actual, creative choices within the game, but have to do with the support system that goes into making the game and making a business out of it.
Do you find every once in a while that there is someone that comes up with a totally creative new approach to the game and the use of the materials?
Technology and stuff? Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you look at the Orbitron, the Super Orbitron game, I was like, that's not something I would have thought of. And it's just fantastic.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So you have some events. Let's talk about those coming right up. And people can actually go to them.
Yes, absolutely.
And we'll show you how to do that too on the screen. Oh, there we go. Is this the showcase coming up?
Yeah, so Capital Creative Showcase is April 15th. It's not this Saturday coming up, it's next Saturday.
Okay.
And it's from 11 to 5, and you can get all the information you want on the website, www.capitalcreativeshowcase.com. And we'd love you to come out and kind of check out the independent video game developers, the independent artists, people who make crafts and stuff like that. We have some of the organizations in the area like Startup Sacramento and Extra Life, great organizations that are going to be there as well.
That's good too, because the support system for arts and science and in the community has totally changed in the last 20 years, and it's an exciting time to be here. Of course, exciting time to be anywhere, but to be in a town where the leadership is really understands the ways that we can go in this, and this is just another one example, Nathan. I think that is very, very exciting. So then also you have a progressive game.
Yeah, progressive game jam. So a game jam, I don't know if you know what a game jam is, but usually you get together in like a 48-hour weekend, right? So a very short amount of time. And they give you a theme, so this, say, use like, public television. So make a game in 48 hours, and the theme is public television, so it has to do, something with public television. When you do that, it's intended to inspire creativity, because you're having to, think on the fly and create something in a very short time period, and it's great for that. But we were doing that when I first joined the group. And I wanted to make a full game. I wanted to, stick with the same team and stick with the same project and kind of continue through. So I kind of pitched the idea of like, hey, instead of these, one weekend kind of game jams, can we kind of make a, longer one and actually make a real game? And so we came up with the idea of Progressive Game Jam. And so Progressive Game Jam, the first one I think was literally like 10 months long, so it was almost a complete year.
So you have to take part in it over this period of time, but the idea is you become imbued in the process.
Yeah, so you have a much better chance of actually making a commercially viable, fully developed video game. And even from out of that first year, which I participated in actually, and I made a game called Project Settlement out of that first year, which I was very proud of. It was a team of 2 or 3 people that we had during that first year. And it was great. I loved it. And it was so fulfilling to be able to actually create a full game that you could play and you could show to people, and they loved it too. And so that experience that I had, I wanted to basically share with others. So we basically kept that going, and it's this year is its 9th year. So Progressive Game Jam has run for 9 years straight, and next year will be the 10th year.
Wow. We have to take a short pause for the cause. This is television, so we have to cut to a piece, and here we go. We'll be back with you.
Do you want to meet a family with a transgender kid? Here we are. Max loves to do backflips. Max loves to play his ukulele. Max loves to just be a kid and just be himself. When I found out I was pregnant, all I really wanted was a happy, healthy, whole child. And that's what I got. I think it's really important for people to know that trans kids don't have a political agenda. They are just kids. Like any parent, we love our kids unconditionally, and we will never stop fighting for them. Stand with us. Protect our families.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
For those dealing with the daily struggles of caring for a loved one, we hear you. That's why AARP created a community with experts and other caregivers to help us better care for ourselves and the ones we love.
Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
We're back with Progressive Game Jam, and with me in the studio is Nathan Alshouse. Facebook.com. Well, you can learn more about it getting onto your website, right?
Yeah, so progressivegamejam.com actually has all the details for our event. So if you want to join or if you're interested in that, just go to the website.
So if I go to the Progressive Game Jam, I have to be part of a group of 4 or 5 people, and we come up with a game.
That's a good question. Not necessarily. We actually have had really small teams. They prefer or want to kind of work alone and stuff like that. But usually, yes, you would be on a team of like 4 or 5 people. We would try to pair you with a balance of skills. So you'd have a programmer, an artist, perhaps like a sound engineer. Complementary skills to actually make a game, because we want to give you the best chance of making a fully developed video.
How long does this process take?
Well, so through the pandemic, we had to kind of shorten it because obviously pandemic, but we started out for the first, I want to say 5 years, we were running it for about 10 months long. So it was almost a complete year. What we as the organization do is we host a monthly event where basically the teams get together and kind of
Just
coordinate.
once a month.
Right. So we run it 10 times, but they're consistently working throughout the 10 months.
I see. Okay, and communicating some way.
And they have their own tools like Discord or Slack or whatever. Where they actually work together, and they have their own meetings, sometimes weekly, sometimes daily. It depends on how aggressive the team is and how much they want to do. And we just really bring them back together during that 1 month period to kind of just check on their progress, give them some advice, guidance, and really just make sure we help them along the way.
Fascinating. It's just fascinating. And so how does it usually end up? Do people communicate enough to finish the project?
So most of them do, yes. We have had some teams that have kind of like, life happens, like I lose my job or I'm moving to another city. I mean, those happen, and we do the best we can to try to help the teams kind of balance. If they lose a valuable resource, we try to, bring in another valuable resource. We do have people that come in the middle of the season, and say like, hey, I just heard about this. Can I still join? And we're like, yeah, come on, and we'll try to get you on a team. So we're usually pretty successful with keeping most of the teams through the entire year. But every team, obviously, it's they deal with what they have to deal with.
Okay. So if I wanted to take part in this project, how would I go about it? Do I just get on on your website?
Yeah, so you can either from our sacdevcollective.org website or our progressivegamejam.com website. You can find essentially the schedule. And it's an in-person meetup, so we'll actually announce where it's going to be at, what date and time, and you show up. The first one is the best because that's the pitch session.
Yeah,
that's where everybody comes in and they talk about their game ideas, and it's very active, it's very robust, a lot of energy, and you get to hear all these really cool ideas for games.
There it is. It's on the screen right now. www.sacdevcollective.org. That's sacdevcollective.org.
And
to learn more about this.
SacDev Collective anywhere pretty much on the internet. It's short for Sacramento Developer Collective, but we try to use SacDev Collective for our online presence.
Just the whole idea of being part of something where you're working with a group on a creative project, and you learn about participation techniques and other things like that, and also you work with the concept of, is there somebody who says this can be done, that knows how either worked it before and made such a wonderful game?
So one of the things that we tried to do in later years, probably starting around the 5th year, is we wanted to create that simulated work environment. So we wanted it to be kind of real world experience as much as we could, right? And the reason for that is because if you've never worked for a game studio before, you've got nothing to put on your resume, and it's really difficult to actually get into a game studio. So we've actually had people use the Progressive Game Jam on their resumes as an example of doing this work and actually getting jobs in the game studios. So we do have like a producer role. We try to bring in mentors that are actually industry experts, that work at actual game studios or have worked at game studios in the past. And we try to, again, we don't want to mess with the creative forces, so we don't try to dictate what they're making, but we try to simulate in a way that, like, in year, I think 8 it was, we had them actually pitch on paper, the game I did, and we had a panel of industry experts that would evaluate it and give it a criteria based on a rubric for their chance for success. And we would select the games that were going to be chosen for the game jam that season based off of,
I see,
industry analysts.
And you pull that away because?
Well, because of the pandemic. We had just started that before the pandemic.
Wow,
and
that was complete, though.
Yeah, we were on a roll, and then we had to kind of pull back. We kept it going. We did not miss the season, but we moved a lot of it online. So during the pandemic, we actually had it running through Slack.
And how does that work, Nathan? Is that good?
It worked pretty good. We had some games. Not, we weren't at our peak like we were in, I think it was 2019. When before the pandemic hit, where we had the most games. Yeah. But we are ramping back up to where we were pre-pandemic.
That's good. I liked hearing that. The whole idea of doing, I work with actors, and, for actors to have a conference on the air it just doesn't work because it's an interactive thing,
Yeah.
You listen, you say, wait, I don't understand what you're saying, whatever it is. And you can't do that on television because it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I find it fascinating to the idea of developing games with a group of people, and it's fascinating that there are so many people involved in your organization, and they have the various business names. If you jump on the website over there, you have funny names, and there were 30 or 40.
Yeah.
30 or 40 listed.
We encourage them to come up with their team name or their business name, and it's very creative, just as much as their video games that they produce.
Good. Developer, Sacramento Developer Collective. It's a developer collective. You mean they're going to put in more houses?
Yeah, we kind of shied away from the video game developer because, like I said, there's a lot of creative talents, a lot of creative works that are not necessarily video games. Like we have some people who make board games. One of our board members actually runs a company called Table Star Games and has actually produced many board games, including Bike Route Sacramento, which was a very popular board game about taking routes through Sacramento landmarks.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. So okay, then because I was worried, I was thinking about Monopoly and all of that when I first started to read about your organization, but I thought, oh no, the computer.
Yeah. So that's why we just kind of stick with Developer Collective. It's essentially any kind of development, especially around games, but. And our primary focus is video game, but we love supporting the creative, forces in Sacramento.
Good. Well, I not that I don't like those games where you can open up the board and there's Go.
Yeah. Yeah, the great thing about Bike Route Sacramento is really it was a very talented artist. Peter Hansel is his name, and he hand drew all the art for like a lot of the landmarks in Sacramento. So it's very close to home for a lot of people who live here and know all the landmarks.
Fantastic. And did we watch all the videos and everything? As we full.
Yeah, we got some very long videos. You can check out our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com and use the @ sign, so @SacDev Collective. We've got videos that are as long as like 4.5 hours.
Yeah, I did. I got on your Facebook and there was a couple of videos on there of some games that were being done, and
video game trailers. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, we got a little bit into video production when the pandemic hit. So, our Capital Creative Showcase, when the pandemic hit, we couldn't hold that in person. It's a large gathering of people. So we actually filmed all of our developers on Zoom and we shot an in-studio, virtually safe, separated, a hosting segment, and we put it all up on YouTube. It ended up being like 2 different shows, a game showcase and a developer showcase that was like 4.5 hours of content. It was fantastic.
I want to thank you, Nathan, for coming to talk to me about Sacramento Developer Collective and all of the wonderful things that you offer.
Well, thank you for having me here. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. All right, we'll see you next week on LiveWire. Bye.